One. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us tonight on our Area Scouts Procast. We do these weekly lives every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. and feature our top advisors, directors, and special guests sometimes that we invite onto the show. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us tonight We are live on a YouTube page as well as broadcasting on several live feeds that broadcast to groups as large as 50,000 members in baseball, softball, and football groups across Facebook. Our direct messaging is open on those live feeds for viewers to be able to ask questions. The questions in the YouTube page will be answered after the show if anybody wants to answer questions in there, ask questions in there. We will do a Q&A for both our special guest tonight, who is our director of pitching for softball. We welcome Karissa Hovinga, and she'll be doing our interview to start the show, and then we'll do a quick Q&A with Karissa. And then we will follow that up with our Director of Sports Medicine and Performance is Dr. Anthony Anzillo, who's on every week with us, as well as our Director of Operations and Baseball Operations, Brian Murray. So I'm going to go ahead and let Brian start us off with the interview, and I am going to take the questions. So anyone wants to put those in, I will. We'll get to usually about 10 of them that we can address again to Karissa, and then we'll address the rest to the Area Scouts operations team.
Great. Thank you, Lance. And thank you, Karissa, for coming on and speaking to us tonight. Look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so we're just going to dive in. I'm going to ask you a few questions, all about softball and what you've done with your, early days going up to what you're doing now. So why don't we just start with some of the things that I was seeing when, I always do research on the people that we're interviewing so I can kind of get an idea of what great things they've done. And every one that I do, I'm just shocked at some of the things that I see there and the amazing experience that our directors have had in their sport that they're, participating in. And when I saw yours, so at a young age, you're at, the ISF youth, U16 World Cup in Prague, 2010 Junior World Championships in Colombia. I mean, that is an amazing young softball adventure that you were on. And you also, helped out with the juniors, Canadian juniors, right? So just kind of tell us, what was that experience like for you, and what age did you get into, those national team events? But especially, I know you were a young age when you joined and had some experience with Team Canada, the Canadian national team. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so I joined the junior national team. I think I was entering the junior year of my high school. So I was like a junior in high school. And yeah, like you said, I got to travel to my first international experience and trip was to Prague in the Czech Republic. And then the following summer was our World Championship qualifier in Bogota, Colombia. That was to qualify again later on, which I went to, was our Junior World Championships in Cape Town, South Africa. So super awesome experience to be able to leave the country and experience other parts of the world at such a young age. I have to admit that I don't think I could fully embrace the opportunity or realize how cool it was just because I was so young. I think I was 15 when I first joined the team, about, like I said, a junior in high school, and then continued on to play with the junior team. Up our last event as a junior team was the World Championships, and that was December of my freshman year of college. So that was my last experience with the junior team. And then that following summer after my freshman year was the first summer that I had made the senior team. That was the summer of 2012. And that summer was the World Championship, which was in Whitehorse, the Yukon. So that was my first kind of senior summer and experience with international ball with the senior team.
Wow. Yeah, that's, and I'm sure with all the softball that you had going on and the training and the games, it was hard to really, embrace what you were seeing out there. And, these different countries that you were in, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, but what an experience at that young age. I mean, I coach travel ball, and our elite kids go to Georgia, or they go to South Carolina, or they go to Vegas, but nobody's going to Colombia or the Czech Republic. So, what an opportunity as a young softball player there. So, before heading to the Canadian national team, tell us about your club experience when you were a youth athlete. What did you do, and were there any coaches that really helped you along the way as a youth player?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had some great coaches growing up. I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have been coached in my adolescence by some great coaches. So my club experience was so great and so fun for me because I got to play with my best friends from the age of 9 when I started playing travel ball up to my last year in travel ball. So I never changed teams. I had the same coach, and we had kind of like a core group of girls who continued to stay on that team. There were about 5 or 6 of us. So it was really special that we got to grow up playing together. And a few of us are still very close and remain best friends to this day. So obviously my travel ball coach had a huge impact on me and my development. And I think because our player coach relationship was so strong, he was like a second dad to me. He came to my wedding out in Oregon just a few weeks ago, flew out from Nebraska, so pretty awesome. And his daughter, who still is one of my best friends, she was also in that wedding. So I think his impact on me was so strong just because of our interpersonal relationship. And we had a lot of respect for one another in that way. And then on the other hand, I would say my high school coach is someone who I really think prepared me for college, kind of in a more serious, less interpersonal relationship role. It was more of like a business relationship, which is what I think you need going into college, just kind of getting ready for that next step and more serious. And have somebody who knows how to pull the best player out of you and can be tough on you, but who you still have a tremendous amount of respect for. And I think my high school coach was that person.
And where did you grow up that you did the club, and where is your high school? What state were you in?
Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska, just Omaha. I'm a dual citizen. That's how I could play on the Canadian national team. My mom was born in Edmonton. And so I am like a dual passport holder. But I grew up in Nebraska, played high school softball at Papillion La Vista, who's a pretty prominent name now, I think, just because of, most recently Jordan Ball, the #1 recruit, went to that high school, and now she's at Oklahoma. Yeah, so that's where I went to high school. And then my travel ball team, we were called the Frozen Ropes Fury. I don't think they're around anymore, that organization or that name. Travel ball's just changed so much, honestly, just since I've been playing. But yeah, that was who I played for.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You said you were on a team with a core group of players from 9 to 18, or whenever you decided to move on from there. But that's unusual nowadays too.
Yeah,
you see a lot of players. Like I said, I coach elite travel baseball, so I see a lot of players going from one organization to another. So that actually is a pretty decent review of that organization, because they were able to keep that core group together and they were happy. And obviously the coaches are a huge part of that. So, that's fantastic that you were able to have that experience with having that team that you were solidified in for so many years. People don't understand how much of a difference that makes on the field.
It really does.
When
they're my best friends. Yeah. I mean, we would hang out on the weekends growing up. Like, that was full time, even in the off season. Like, it was truly the best experience. And I'm really, really lucky for that.
Yeah. Longtime teammates don't ever want to let the other teammate down. So they always want to work hard, right? For those, for their friends. That's great. So before we jump into Oregon, how was your recruiting process to go to Oregon? Like, what did you go through? How many schools were you kind of looking at? And when did you kind of start that recruitment process?
Yeah, so it's just changed so much since I've been recruited. I graduated high school in 2011. So my junior year, it kind of went from like recruiting later when I was like being recruited, and then they went to drastically the opposite where they were recruiting super, super early. And now I think they're back to a good point, and what I believe is where it should be is they're recruiting a little bit later now. You can't be talked to until you're a junior now. So we're kind of back to where I was in my recruiting stage. So yeah, junior year was when I was really starting to dive into schools, and schools were kind of looking at me. And I think the Canadian team had a lot to do with that, because I was already involved with and associated with the junior team before I was started to be heavily recruited. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Like Washington, for example, they kind of had that Canadian pipeline with Danielle Laurie. And so I think that's how they got my name. It wasn't because they were coming to our travel ball tournaments in the Midwest, that's for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of how Washington heard my name. And then I guess through the West Coast grapevine or whatever, somehow Oregon found out about me as well. And then I also went to a camp at Oregon as well. And the reason I was even had the opportunity to play for the Canadian team and for them to find out that I was actually Canadian is actually through Lori Sipple, who is an assistant at Nebraska. And she was formerly a coach with the Canadian national team. So she coaches at Nebraska. She formerly coached the Canadian team. And so that's how she found out that I was partially Canadian and could have that opportunity to play for Canada. And so I think just all of that is like a big combination of how these like Power 5 schools kind of heard about me, I would say.
Yeah. What made you make the decision to Oregon? I know they're an incredible softball school, but
I actually committed there before they were an incredible softball school. I think I was Mike White's first recruited class.
Oh, okay.
So when I committed there, that was like his first year, my junior year. Wow. So he was there for my junior year and my senior year of high school. He was coaching at Oregon, but I think I was his first actually recruited class. And I just wanted to go to Oregon because you're playing in the best conference. I didn't have like a super strong tie to Nebraska. Like I didn't grow up like a diehard Husker fan, like I know a lot of people do around here. And yeah, I mean, my family wasn't super close knit, to be honest. I know that a family is a big reason why people will choose to stay local. And that wasn't for me. So yeah, I'm like, let's go to Oregon where I can play against the best competition. I mean, they just hired an incredible coach who I heard nothing but great things about. And I also got to go out there for some camps. And I really liked it. And obviously just a beautiful part of the country.
Oh yeah, gorgeous part of the country. All right, so you played ball at Oregon and you put up some amazing stats when I was looking at these. And, you know, being a baseball guy myself, I never really realized that there's not a tremendous amount of pitching staff on college teams. Mm-hmm. Some of the stats I saw, like 3 pitchers in the stats, 4 pitchers in the stats. I mean, college baseball teams that I know of nowadays have like, 10, 12 pitcher onlys, it's just amazing. And to see the amount of games that are thrown by those pitching, that pitching staff is amazing. So just phenomenal stats and a lot of success there. So what was your path after college with softball? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So throughout my college career, my entire 4 years at Oregon, I was always playing for the Canadian team in the summer. So I would go from my college season to international season in the summer for 4 years. And I knew I wanted to keep playing for the Canadian team even after I graduated, as I knew the decision for the sport to return to the Olympics was on the horizon. So I knew I wanted to keep playing on the team so I could be in that running down the road. And I know most full-time jobs won't love the idea of their employee taking 3 months off in the summer season to play internationally. So I figured I'd just keep going with what I knew. So school, then playing in the summer, school, then playing in the summer. So I sought out an opportunity to get my master's degree so that I could still continue to play. I ended up finding that opportunity at the University of Minnesota, where I was a graduate manager for 2 seasons. So I was able to go to school, use their facilities to train, and then also get pitching reps there as well, as I was kind of involved in some of their practices.
Did you cross paths with Alyssa Rayner when you were there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. She was on with us last week.
Yeah.
She was great to talk to as well.
Yeah, she's awesome. Melissa's great.
Yeah.
She was in there my second year of grad school at Minnesota. So that was when the new coaching staff got hired at Minnesota. So I was with Coach Allister for 1 year and then Coach Traxel for 1 year. And that's when I met Alyssa, because through North Dakota State.
Great. Yeah. Both of you, amazing job on your videos that we provide to athletes for, increasing their fundamentals and their part of the game. For pitching, Alyssa does an amazing job with the catching stuff.
Awesome.
Really enjoyed watching her videos too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Joey Lai, who, God, has been a mainstay in Canadian softball for so many years, and just making the decision to hang it up recently. So, but amazing group of female athletes that we have representing us in softball. It's great. So you are the director of pitching for softball for Aeroscouts. What do you hope to accomplish with youth athletes on our platform, and what attracted you to the Aeroscouts platform?
So I want good coaching to be more accessible for young athletes, especially at the youth and developmental level. I think that is the most crucial time for kids to learn a solid mechanical foundation. And even though the mechanics won't be perfect at that age, for them to just be exposed to proper verbiage and to see proper technique, I think that'll go a long way. And then what attracted me to this platform and this way of coaching is it's just that, like, I want to help coaches help their athletes, even coaches who think they're doing a great job, but just want someone to bounce ideas or things they've heard off of, just to ensure that what they are coaching is accurate and is something I think any coach, no matter the level of experience, can take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's so important in youth sports. We couldn't get anywhere without the parent coaches. There was no way all this softball could be played at the youth levels, and they try their hardest. And I'll tell you, I've talked to a lot of youth parent coaches that just want information. They want to be helped. They want to do the right thing. They want to learn more about how to properly train their athletes that are underneath them. So I think the Aeroscouts platform gives them that option to really have evaluators around that can really help you out. And me personally, I've been trying to set up some, and I know I have one coming up next spring that's a little bit of a coaches clinic for some youth baseball organizations around me. So we come out and we actually teach them some drills and things that they really need to focus on with their young players. So that's great. Okay, last question for you. I'm sure you have many of these, but what was your favorite memory in softball?
Oof. Favorite memory. Well, I have two, I would say. I'll talk about two. I have many, but I'll talk about two. So a more team approach to this question is without a doubt when we won gold on home soil, 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto. I'm sure Joey's talked about this before.
Yep.
So I didn't pitch in the game, but it was an all-out team effort. Like we all had to believe that we could do it in order to do it. So it was all-out team effort to win that game, and it was the first time that Canada had won a gold in Pan Ams in a long, long time. So that was really awesome. And then my second favorite memory, I would say, is when I was specifically pitching, and that was in the 2014 Women's College World Series. So we were playing Oklahoma in an elimination game at night under the lights. I was put into a pretty crucial situation in the sixth inning. I think we were up like 2 runs. There was a runner on base, and Lauren Chamberlain, who is the NCAA home run leader, she was up to bat. And I think Coach White wanted like a ground ball pitcher. Like I was more of a drop ball pitcher. I think he wanted someone to roll a ground ball versus Sheridan, who's a rise ball pitcher. And I mean, home run hitters up to bat, she could take that thing out of the yard. So I went in and I actually struck her out on back-to-back changeups. So we ended up winning the game and knocking out Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. So it was a pretty big deal. It was really awesome.
Wow. This definitely beats all my memories. Oh, that's great. Well, all right. So right now we're going to turn it over to Lance, see if we got any questions for Karissa.
Yeah, I have four questions for her. So we got Louisa from Wisconsin. Hi, Karissa. Would love to hear your advice on a situation my daughter is currently in. There are a handful of girls who pitch on my daughter's U14 team. A few of them are a little better than my daughter. My daughter is also the best catcher on the team. I feel like she needs to really start focusing on one position or the other and playing that position during these games. Anything you suggest for us with regards to this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because I'm definitely all for really young kids playing all the positions and trying out everything. But 14, I definitely think you're getting to that point where you want to kind of find that position and really dive in. Not that sport, because I definitely think keep playing all the sports you want to play. But as far as like position specific, I definitely think that's a good age to really dive into one kind of area, whether it's infield, outfield, catching, pitching. I think it's got to just boil down to what she loves to do the most. Yeah, like, do you love to be out there? Do you want the ball when you go out there and pitch? Or do you love to be that presence behind the plate? Catching is still, I mean, they're both just such huge and important positions on the field. I think she's got to really just take a deep dive and really figure out what she loves to do. And even though there's pitchers that you say who are better than her on the team, and she might not get to pitch as much, if she really loves it and she solely goes towards that and focuses on that, I think she can just be right up there. But the fact that it might be slowing her down a little bit is because she is having to kind of split time and working on both of these positions.
Great answer. How big of a role did travel ball play in your development? Our daughter is 12, wants to join a second travel team. We are scared to allow her to join a second team and risk getting burnt out. What do you feel is a good amount of practice and playing time each week? How much did you play during these years? She's 12.
Yeah. I've never actually heard of someone playing for two different traveling teams. So maybe like one local team, one traveling team, but I've never heard of two traveling teams. That does sound like quite a lot. So maybe trying to really break down what both of these schedules look like and what they look like together. Yeah, I definitely think team practices, I think we maybe practiced twice a week in the off season and then maybe 3 or 4 when we're in season. And then for me on my own, because I was a pitcher, and I would argue that hitters should probably be doing this as well, is practicing a lot. So practicing for 20 or 30 minutes 5 days a week as opposed to 40 minutes to an hour 2 or 3 times a week. I think that's really important for development, is practicing a lot. You don't have to have these exhaustive long practices fewer times in the week. But yeah, definitely I think 2 travel ball teams, it sounds like a lot to me, but only you really know your kid, and only your kid really knows what's too much for her. And I always think playing multiple sports, I'm a big advocate for that. So I don't know if she's trying to do that or if she only does want to focus on softball. Even if she does only want to focus on softball, I would still, in my opinion, think that 2 traveling teams sounds like a lot to me. Were there more questions in there that I missed? I know that was kind of a long question, but I want to answer all of it.
How much you played during those years? I guess you kind of answered that with your practice time, playing time. Karissa, my name is Caitlin. My niece is getting ready to attend Ohio University next year. Her aspirations are to coach after she plays. She's always asking what she can do now and while she's playing to help give her an advantage to get to have that opportunity later down the road. Is that something that you have aspired to do as well?
Oh yeah, I think that's awesome, especially that she knows that right away, that that's what she's interested in doing. And I think she could probably get involved in doing some lessons, whether that's hitting or catching or fielding or pitching. If she's a pitcher, I think she could probably link up with her coach at Ohio and be like, hey, do you know of any local teams where I could help give lessons to young kids? Make a little bit of money and yeah, brush up on that coaching and see if it's something she really likes. And I think that's great. Or even maybe volunteering some youth camps, something local in the Ohio area, just to get involved. And it's a resume builder um, for coaching and getting to coach kids early on in her young career. I think that's great.
MJ from San Antonio, what was your typical workout routine in between pitching appearances?
Typical workout routine. Yeah, so if you're in season and you're pretty heavily involved in playing in games, we at Oregon, for instance, I would say a lot more speed work. We're still lifting weights, but it's a lot lighter, and we're trying to move that weight very quickly. That was kind of what we did at Oregon in terms of working out, and then also even just like cooling down, like just going for like a nice long jog, 20-30 minute jog. Doesn't have to be anything super physically exhausting. I think that's a good way. I'm not sure if you're talking about like off field type of working out, or if she's thinking more on field pitching working out in between games. But I think, yeah, in terms of pitching, I would say some light bullpens. Doesn't have to be a lot at all. Maybe just have some spin days where you're solely focusing on the spin. You're not thinking about going the full distance. Especially like your body. So I think if you're like, man, I threw 3 games 2 days ago, I really don't want to throw full today. Just focus on spin. You can always be doing something.
And last question, curious, how many types of pitches did you throw when you played, and what is typical for softball?
Mm.
I always wondered that myself.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was more of like a curveball, screwball pitcher, and I didn't really understand movement and spin and things like that. I just kind of like angled my body and got it to a location and was super aggressive about it. And I saw a lot of success just doing that. So it wasn't until college that I um, really understood how to spin the ball and how the ball should rotate and what it should look like on this pitch and that pitch. And so Coach White really helped me out with that. So I personally, I think you can see a lot of success in throwing 2 or 3 pitches if they're really, really good. You can throw them in any count. You can throw them for a strike. You can locate it where you want it. It's got darn near perfect spin, and it's doing what you're intending for it to do. So for me in college, I was mostly drop ball change up, and I was able to survive on those 2 pitches because I was able to locate them and I was able to be deceptive with them. Um, and those 2 pitches as well, they had the same spin. So I was able to get downspin on my changeup, downspin on my drop ball, and I was able to survive with just 2 pitches in arguably the best conference in the country. So I think just really knowing what you're trying to do with each pitch and really perfecting that spin. You don't need to have 6 pitches. When I hear about these kids having 6 pitches, I just think a lot of them probably look the same. They probably aren't getting the spin that they're intending to get on all 6 pitches. I don't think so. So yeah, really trying to get the right spin on your down ball, trying to get the right spin on your up ball, whether that's a curve or a rise.
So I want to add on that question. That was our last question from them. So because I just noticed this with coaches that I see working with a lot of these teams just in town and on some travel ball teams, that I never see coaches teaching that. I don't think I've ever witnessed a coach under the collegiate level ever teaching someone how to spin the ball properly in softball. I've seen it in baseball, but I don't feel like I see it as much. Was that something you almost experimented on your own with when you were, or did you have somebody that was kind of experienced enough at the earlier levels with you that was actually able to show you that?
Yeah, at the early levels, I couldn't describe it to you what the curveball spin should look like in my case, because I was only throwing curveballs and screwballs when I was younger before college. I couldn't describe what the spin should look like in order for it to do what I'm wanting it to do. I couldn't do that when I was a young pitcher. I think what made me so successful was I thought I was really, really good. I had that belief in myself that I was really, really good. And that got me so far. Like it got me a scholarship to a D1 program, like just believing in myself and being aggressive and pitching with conviction and hitting my spots. I didn't think now that I look back, I don't think my ball was moving because I didn't know what kind of spin I was putting on the ball. So it's just crazy to think about how far you can get just a little bit of belief and effort. You're pitching a lot, you're hitting your spots. I always had a pretty good changeup, and I got really far just doing that. But yeah, nobody really told me what the spin should be spinning like until I got to college, which is crazy.
And like baseball, is there an age that you think that they shouldn't be worrying about that, and the one that they really should be starting to learn that? And was there an age that kind of clicked for you?
Yeah, I think at a young age, it's all about mechanics. I think you'll be able to throw harder with solid mechanics. You'll be able to seamlessly spin other pitches with good mechanics, and you'll be able to have your location with good mechanics. And so I think really honing in on those mechanics first, and then location comes second, being able to throw your fastball wherever you want it, pinpoint accuracy, get your fastball down before you throw another moving pitch. You can add the changeup pretty early on, I would say. 11, 12, you can add that changeup. But up to 11 or 12, I think you should just be honing in on your mechanics and making sure you can throw that fastball at least, 7 out of 10 for a strike before you're starting to move on to a moving pitch per se.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Karissa. I appreciate it. You're more than welcome to stay on with us or pop off. I know you've already been through the Area Scouts routine several times, so appreciate you being on tonight. And it was an awesome interview, and thank you, everyone, for asking the questions. And look forward to seeing everything you are producing on the Area Scouts platform.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Karissa.
Okay, Brian. Did I give you share?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to take you through a little presentation on the Area Scouts platform. First and foremost, like Karissa, we have just a tremendous amount of great, experienced directors involved with all these programs. You'll see the Olympic rings here for a few of them. We have 3 that recently played in the Olympics. Joey actually walked away with a bronze medal for the softball team for Canada. So just really top-notch directors producing amazing material for young athletes here. So I'm not going to go through the bios on all of these. Some of the big standouts, Fred McGriff, obviously, Brandon Geyer. These are, guys that are very successful at a very high level. Lenny DiNardo is a former World Series champion with the Red Sox. So you can go on areascouts.com if you want to check out the bios for each one of our directors. But every sport that we're in has top-notch directors that are looking to help youth players and give them the right material and really develop them to the next level. Now, as far as our base assessment goes, that is the first step in the process for athletes that come onto our platform. Anthony is going to cover base in more detail after my presentation, but I will tell you that it is an assessment that provides a complete outline of the athlete's overall physical foundation. So really going to give them a good idea of where they stand and where they need to get to from a body standpoint, from a athleticism standpoint, movement standpoint, really to get them to be a better athlete, not just a better baseball player or a better football or softball player, but a better athlete. So Anthony will cover that in more detail. So base is the first step for our athletes. And then the second step they go through is an on-field assessment. The ones that are here are specific to softball and baseball. But in those on-field assessments, we're going to take video and break down every aspect of the game the player plays. So if they catch and they play infield or outfield and they pitch and they're a hitter, we're going to do it all. We're going to look at what they're doing out there. We're going to take video, we're going to break it down for fundamentals, and then we're going to give them development material set through benchmarks that our professional athletes, our directors on our platform have put together specific to what that athlete needs to improve on. So it's an excellent way to get a good assessment of where you're at with regards to your play on the field, and then get that development material specific to what you need to improve on going forward. With the video breakdown, we're also going to do a complete set of metrics. Advanced analytics is really prevalent in a lot of different sports nowadays. Softball, baseball, football, baseball especially, is just the advanced metrics. If you watch a game, you're seeing what the velocity was, and what spin rates were, and what the launch angle was on a home run, or the exit velocities. They're really becoming more and more at the forefront of the game. So we're going to make sure you have a complete set of metrics. This can be used as a baseline for you when you come onto the Aeroscouts platform, and you can see those metrics increase over time, hopefully with the great work that you're doing with Aeroscouts. So for hitting, we're going to get those exit velos, the max distance off the bat, your bat speed, pitching velocity, spin rate, spin axis. We're going to do glove to glove times in the field, show how well you can receive the ball, get rid of the ball accurately, what your top velos are in the fields. And we also do pop times for catchers, which is throwing out a runner at second base and making sure that when we do our evaluation of catching, we're trying to give you the best advantage to make and improve on that pop time as well. So these combined, are very affordable to every family. Just starting with the base program, base is 117, and that includes 2 months on the platform. So an evaluator will meet with you either in a field, and this is all in person to start. The assessments are done in person. They'll meet with you on a field. They'll meet with you in a facility. They're going to go over this base assessment that usually takes per athlete between 45 minutes and an hour to complete. And with that $117, you're going to get 2 months development specific to the base program as an athlete. So you're going to get 2 months of that development, and it's going to be included in that 117. To continue on after that, it's only $10 per month. So it's a very good starting point for you to get in, get the base, see what we're all about. And then if you decide to go baseball, softball, football, it's another good opportunity to upgrade from there. Get that second assessment that is very similar in cost. It's almost the exact same price, actually, just to upgrade to that next assessment level, which would include base and the on-field assessment. So Aeroscouts been partnering with a lot of different companies, and when we look at our partnerships, we look at organizations and some products that really could help benefit our athletes and that are aligned with what we believe in and what our kind of focus is here with athletes is to get them better, give them all the tools they can get, and really, work with them to help them develop and get to that next level. So our partnerships, we have the Scout Hub, Bert Blyleven. Son Todd runs this company and does a fantastic job. This is something that we offer to our athletes that come on and get them in touch with him for evaluations and different things that he can do through the Scout Hub. And then we have Diamond Kinetics that we use for some of our metrics. We also have some other devices that we use for that as well, and I'll go over that when we take a look at the platform next. New England AAU Baseball is a partner of ours as well. Compex, Axio, PowerFlex, and Clean Fuego. These are all different types of devices that some of our directors use in their videos, and others that we just support because we think it is really good for the athletes for either their health, recovery, strength, performance. SportsCert I'll go over in a little bit because they have a separate function for us that is involved with our platform. So when an Aeroscouts athlete comes on, they're going to log in, they're going to register here, they're going to get a profile. Profile will have a lot of personal information that they can put in about, their age and where they go to school and all these things that are, going to be special to them. And then there is a portion down here where you really have a lot of things that you can choose from. You can become a base athlete, you can become a premium athlete. This button here, Pro Resources Assessment, It's going to have now 3 assessments available to you. One is going to be a nutrition assessment from Brandon Geyer, former player with the Cleveland Indians. He also does a mindset assessment in there as well. So you can go in, get some advice from a professional athlete who does this for a living, looking at mindset, looking at nutrition, what you should eat. Talks about sleep a lot in there too. Great for an athlete just to get a really good basis. And then our athletes can actually work directly with the pros if they choose to after these initial assessments as well. The third assessment is going to be new. It's going to be a neuro skills assessment. It's going to be launching very soon on our platform with pretty much the neuro skills coach of the pros, guy that works with a lot of, top draft choices, a lot of athletes that have been inundated in pro sports for a long time. They go to him. He's the guy that helps them get to the next level from a neuro standpoint, from a pattern recognition standpoint, from a consistency standpoint, and really helping them solidify their game. So lots of different information here. When we go into the premium section, you're going to see that you can upload all your stats here. Your hitting, pitching, fielding stats can all be put in here. If you have Game Changer or some other type of platform that you use to gather your stats from your teams, then you can put that in here as many years as you want to go back. You can go back 5 years if you want and have, be tracking how many doubles you hit, home runs, really have it in one spot so you can see how you've done and really monitor your performance. We also have that metrics section I talked about where, we do use different devices. Diamond Kinetics, a partner of ours, but our evaluators have access to many different devices. So we want to make sure they can use whatever they have access to. So we do also have entries for Rapsodo, Blast Motion, HitTrax, TrackMan. This is a hitting metrics that we put in here with max exit velocity, total spin, launch angle, max distance off the bat, and what the spin was like on the ball. So you can also do pitching metrics, catching metrics, fielding metrics, and base running metrics. All of this, again, is going to be a nice portfolio for you to have and keep for years and be able to send this out to college coaches through one of our partnerships. Next, let's go into the benchmark. So as I said, you're going to start off with base and then you're going to go to the on-field assessment. The base benchmarks here, these are going to be your flags that you need to work on depending on how you scored on the test that we administer. So in this particular instance, we had a standing toe touch that was completed by the athlete. The objective is to touch their toes for 3 seconds while keeping their knees completely straight. This athlete scored a 2. They were only able to touch their ankles for 3 seconds while keeping their knees completely straight. And since they got a 2, they get 2 corrective videos, one for mobility and one for motor control. These videos are going to pop up like you see here, and this is going to be Dr. Anthony Anzillo taking you through a stretch or a certain type of exercise that's going to help you with that flag you've been assigned. Great thing about our platform, if you score a 1, you're going to get a completely different set of exercises, so you can work your way up to that 3. Me personally, and I say this all the time, these are highly impactful stretches and exercises that Anthony prescribes to people. And I will tell you that you can go from a 1 to a 3 in a matter of a month and a half, 2 months. I've seen it personally done myself. It's pretty impressive when you see that drastic change to an athlete's mobility, flexibility. So then when we get in the benchmarks for the on-field assessment, you're going to see these for all different aspects of the game. This is for pitching, but there's going to be fielding ones, hitting ones, catching ones. They're specific to the type of movement that you might have. For this, it's a leg lift and pitching. And we have an objective here. Here's our 4 points of objectives. And then this athlete had a toe dominant lift and their knee was tracking to first or third base during their leg lift. And then we're going to have our director of pitching, Josh Zide, take them through a drill that's going to help them to alleviate these issues and meet these objectives. Again, there's just a tremendous amount of these for each aspect of the game. So all of them athlete specific. We're not going to give you videos unless we assessed you and saw that you needed to improve on one aspect of this. So they will be athlete specific to what you need to improve on. All right, next, Sports Thread. So I told you I'd talk a little bit about Sports Thread. This is a national sports social media company that you can put a profile on, upload your area scouts stats into there, your metrics. You can put your academics in here, and you can send this out to any college coach in the country. All premium athletes with area scouts have the availability to get a profile on Sports Thread and put in all this information and then send it out to any college coach that you would like to in the country. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to discuss BASE and this great program that he's created. So Anthony, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Brian. So my name is Anthony Anzillo. I'm a physical therapist and a strength and conditioning specialist. I spent several years working right alongside Dr. James Andrews, as well as with numerous college and pro football teams. So had a lot of a wide variety of experience to use to put this assessment together. And really the purpose of the BASE assessment and the purpose of everything we do at Area Scouts is to help ensure that every athlete has the opportunity to reach their full athletic potential by making sure that they can stay healthy and stay on the field, and to help improve their performance, to continue to give them opportunities for playing time and to reach the next level, and just overall stay healthy and reach their individual athletic goals. So you saw a little bit about the on-field assessments and how we look at pitching and catching and hitting and base running and all these really advanced athletic activities. And to do those things successfully, it really takes a lot of things that aren't quite so obvious to a lot of people. To move well and perform well, we need mobility and strength through all of the different parts of the body, and coordination for all of those areas working together. For example, for a pitcher, like we had Karissa on, requires strength and stability in the legs, a lot of mobility in the hips and the spine and the shoulder, of course, good stability in the core, as well as the motor control to put all these pieces together to deliver the ball in a coordinated way. So in the BASE assessment, we have a very systematic way of breaking down, the mobility and the strength pretty much in every joint of the body. Throughout the assessment, tried to make sure that no joint or muscle went untested throughout the assessment. So we have it broken into 4 different sections. First is biomechanics, and in that section, we're looking at some basic fundamental movement patterns. One of them you saw from Brian was a standing toe touch. There are 7 different movement patterns we look at in this section, all of which require some combination of mobility in the joints, flexibility in the muscles, and strength or stability, as well as the motor control to put all those pieces together. So for example, in that standing toe touch, if the athlete lacks mobility in their hips or flexibility in their spine or flexibility in their hamstrings or joint mobility in any segment of their spine, it's going to affect their ability to touch their toes in that functional pattern that we look for, and they'll be scored appropriately, and then therefore will receive a corrective exercise, or at least 2 corrective exercises, to address the most common limitations of that restriction. So it's that way for the 7 different tests within the biomechanics section. Next, after that, we move on to the athleticism section, and really that's where things get a little bit more physically demanding. We're looking at several different tests of both upper and lower body strength and power, and then comparing the left to right sides. So asymmetries are another risk factor for injuries. So we have both the ability to compare left to right performance to ensure that there aren't asymmetries from left to right, as well as comparing their performance to expected norms among their peers within their sport and age groups. Also within this section, we look at a few different tests of both speed and agility. So really up to this point in the assessment, we both looked at basic fundamental movement patterns, as well as advanced speed and agility tests, including a maximal sprint speed. Following that, we move into the sequence section. And when we talk about sequence, what we're describing is the kinematic sequence. And basically that is how efficiently and effectively the athlete's able to transfer power from their legs through their core and then to their arms. And in the case of hitting, then the arms deliver the power through the bat. And in the case of pitching, the arm delivers the ball. So in any of those rotational movements, that's the ideal power transfer sequence. First, power is generated in the legs and then transferred through the athlete's core, and then power is delivered by the arms. So we have a few tests that allow us to evaluate the athlete's power development in several different directions. And then again, they're provided with corrective exercises to help optimize that kinematic sequence. And then finally, we move into the endurance section. And here we're looking at both cardiorespiratory endurance as well as muscular endurance, primarily of the core muscles. So fatigue is another major risk factor for injury as well as for poor performance. So by testing this and providing corrective exercises to the athletes that perform below our expected standards, we can help to ensure that they have a lower risk of injury and have improved performance, especially as it gets toward the end of a game or an event or a season, when otherwise their technique and everything would start to break down due to fatigue. So it's one of my favorite parts of the assessment is that we look at everything, so many different aspects of movement and of strength and of mobility, balance, just anything you can imagine. And then they're provided with targeted corrective exercises to do something about the limitations that we find. And then we see that it can directly improve their performance on the field and allow them to stay healthy.
Thank you, Anthony.
Of course.
All right, so we got about 9 or 10 questions here. We'll try to get through at least 5 of them, 6 of them. Michael out of Dallas. My son is 13 years old, just started pitching. His coach just started having him use weighted balls several weeks ago, and now he has been complaining of shoulder pain. We brought him to a specialist last week, and they did not find any injury. I am still not happy with the diagnosis and would love to hear your opinion on weighted balls being used with a 13-year-old, and should this be the process? Does Aeroscouts currently use weighted balls with any of its programs?
As far as I know, in the pitching program, I don't know that. Do we use weighted balls in those?
No, just bands. Josh goes through his bands.
And the only weighted balls are involved in the some corrective exercises with two-handed medicine ball throws to help train that kinematic sequence and help with power development. 13 to me is a little early for weighted ball throwing, especially if he's starting to show symptoms from it. I think that just like you heard from Karissa, that those kind of ages should be a big focus on proper mechanics and proper technique. Weighted balls are an effective strategy down the line to increase throwing velocity, but they definitely have their risks. But it sounds like if he, even though some kids might respond well to it in his age, he's not seeming to respond well to it. So there are certainly many other things that can be done to train him to improve his strength and improve his power, rather than using weighted balls.
Yeah, just to add to that, Anthony, I feel like you need to make sure that their mechanics and kinematic sequence is working properly, and that they are using the right core muscles and everything to support, their extremities to be able to use weighted balls in the right way they're intended to. So mechanics are super important when you go into that type of work.
Now, I would say that's for any age. If you're throwing weighted balls and you're not moving correctly, you're probably going to have issues no matter what, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's a long line of a developmental process to try to work toward becoming a better pitcher and increasing your throwing velocity, and I'd say weighted balls probably land at the very, very end of that developmental spectrum.
Hi guys, how is Aeroscouts different from a standard functional movement assessment? We've gotten this question a couple times, Anthony. This one's you.
How does it, sorry.
How does it differ from a standard functional movement assessment?
So it sounds like they may be referring to a functional movement screen. So the biomechanics section, it has a similar layout where they're going just through some movement patterns. Some are similar to the movement patterns that are looked at on the FMS. Some are totally different. The scoring criteria, things we're looking at within those movements are different, and that's just biomechanics. And then the athleticism, sequence, and endurance, those things are just a lot of other more advanced tests that look more at strength and a lot of more advanced movements that go far beyond what that movement screen looks at.
Brian, this one's you. You can maybe explain how much you do. Terrell asks, how much do evaluators help the athletes with the instruction coming from your professional athletes? So the corrective measures would...
Right. Yeah, so we're always, we are certified in all of these, the pitching, catching, we're certified to what the director is trying to instill in the youth athletes. So we are very familiar with those different types of drills. So, it really depends on the athlete and parent and how much involvement you want to have with the evaluator. We can just come out and assess you, and you can do the videos, or you can, there's a button in there that says request training, where you can actually reach out to your evaluator and get some specific training in those areas if you'd like. But primarily the evaluators are going out, doing the assessments, grading you against the benchmarks, and then, putting in that information into the platform to give you the corrective videos. But they are very familiar with the types of drills and things that need to be done. So that one-on-one instruction can also be, acquired.
I'm going to do two more. Kevin from Connecticut, my son lacks hand-eye coordination. Do you focus on this during any of your assessments?
Neuro?
Yeah.
Yeah, a new neuro skills program will be very helpful for that.
Yeah, so Kevin, on November 1st, I suggest you have your son go on there now and create a free profile. Go on to Aeroscouts.com. You just get evaluated button at the very top and fill out a free profile. And on November 1st, we're actually launching a program that's directed right towards that. And you'll get an announcement when that gets launched, and you can definitely have him go into that program. And I believe that will help him with what he's needing there in the hand-eye coordination. Okay, last one. And anyone, I will answer. There's two or three here that I can answer. I'll answer them myself in an email. A direct message. And then this one is for Ant. This will be our last questions. We're on the 9 o'clock. Mark, have you dealt with athletes recovering from ACL injury? And do you feel like your type of program is something that would be dedicated in working with athletes that have suffered this type of injury in the past? How much of the movement assessment is high impact on joints such as the knees? It's a great question.
If there's one rehab I specialize in, and I feel that it's my bread and butter, it's ACL rehab. Both a lot of the jerseys around here that both these guys are ones I rehabilitated from ACL injuries. But the assessment's perfect for that. So a lot of the movements in the athleticism section specifically are tests that I use commonly in my return to play testing after ACL to determine when an athlete's able to safely go back to playing their sport. So as well as within the biomechanics section, some of those movement patterns we look at. So yeah, it's great when someone's, recovering and thinking about going back to returning to play, both to see if their knee is healthy enough, but also to make sure that the rest of their body is good and they're not lacking mobility in their ankles or mobility in their hips. That when they go try to run or cut or jump, if they lack mobility in those areas, the link right in between those is the knee. So if the ankle and the hip can't move adequately, then the knee is going to have to take more of the load and put it at risk of just taking more stress on it. So from just looking at other areas of the body, it's very effective in that. As far as impact goes, that was another question. First, we look at within the athleticism section, kind of look at the leg non-impact strength first by their ability to do essentially a single leg squat, and comparing right to left. So you need to be strong without impact before being strong with impact. Impact's a big game changer. So then we do go into impact testing as well, looking at both broad jump for overall power development, as well as comparing jump distance from the right leg, jumping and landing on the right leg, and then jumping and landing on the left leg. So those are the kind of impact things we look at for both power development and landing ability, which is one of the key tests used in ACO return to sport testing, as well as then we also move into a lot of tests of speed and agility. So it's really looking at a lot of different things, from just movement patterns to strength to power to speed and agility. So really all the things that are involved in sports. So yeah, it'd be perfect for that scenario.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And again, I'll answer. We've got two more here. I'll answer them right here, right when I sign off. Thank you, everyone, for being on tonight. And anyone that wants to get the free profile, you can go to www.aeroscouts.com. Just click the Get Evaluated link at the top. And it is a free profile to sign up for Area Scouts. And you'll get any notifications of upcoming events, camps, clinics, new programs we're getting ready to launch here as of November 1st. And we have a major marketing campaign coming up the first year, Q1. So expecting to have a lot more evaluators joining the program in the sports we currently offer, and looking forward to having a lot more athletes on board with Area Scouts as well. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Karissa, for being on tonight. And we'll see everyone again next week.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you.
Have a great night.